I don't think most of us, including myself, realize it, but most of us aren't living. We're not living to the fullest that we could be. We're living for now, the next distraction, the next easy way out, the next thing that we think will satisfy us. Doing the thing that subliminally we think will satisfy something deeper in us. But I think you know as well as I do that it never really does. And you see, the truth is, the more I go through my life, the quicker I'm realizing that living for now is the quickest way to waste my life. And so today on One Audacious Move, we're going to be talking about the difference between living for now and living now, and why this tiny shift in thinking might be one of the biggest ideological and most impactful shifts you ever make. And so in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to spot where instant gratification is literally running your life, how to start choosing something better even if it doesn't satisfy you right now. And at the end of this short episode, I'm going to leave you with a real challenge, one that if you take up with me this week, could change the course of things for you forever. Sometimes we're only one bold decision, one audacious move away from changing the course of our life if we choose to right now. So with that, let's dive in. So let me start off by asking something. It's going to be an obvious answer, but it's a great place to start. Take yourself back to a moment when you were doing something that was satisfying to you, something that you just decided to do when you knew that you needed to go do something else. Then you stood up from doing that thing. How did you feel afterwards? Did you feel more unsatisfied than you did before? Have you ever gotten off your phone, doomscrolling for an hour and felt like absolute crap for wasting that time? Have you ever stopped playing a video game and just kind of felt nothing afterwards? Have you ever put off something just because you weren't in the mood, decided to go binge watch one of your favorite TV shows, and then stood up and kind of felt like you didn't really satisfy anything at all? You're kind of right back to where you were before, if not even further behind, because now you're further in the future and now you have done less and wasted your time. You're not crazy for feeling that way. You're not alone in feeling that way. I feel that way almost daily with certain things that I do. I looked up a few studies pertaining to this subject matter. In 2022, there was a survey that found that nearly 70% of adults said that after binge watching TV, they felt guilt, regret, and emotional emptiness. There was another study published that found that passive media use, like endless scrolling or binge watching, makes people feel more isolated and less fulfilled almost immediately. Lastly, there was another study at the University of Pennsylvania that found that people who limited their social media to just 30 minutes a day, which sounds like a lot, but really that's a fraction of what we typically do in a day, had significantly lower levels of loneliness, depression, and anxiety. And so I think something that these studies point to, and something at our core that I think we know, especially after doing those things that don't satisfy us, is that short-term satisfaction leads to long-term emptiness. And long-term is definitely a part of the equation because this isn't something that we just started to do typically. Binge watching TV, getting on video games for hours, or doom scrolling is almost like worked into the very fabric of who we are as a society. And I don't know if you notice a pattern with all three of those things. It is screen time. It is staring at a screen. And what's wrapped up in each of those things that we're doing when we're staring at a screen, when we get up and we step away from them and we feel that dissatisfaction. The core of it is that all of this is a trap, whether we realize it or not some big government trap to like steal our minds and all of this stuff, but it's training our dopamine receptors. It's training our minds. It's training our souls. It's training the very equilibrium of how we live our lives to pursue instant gratification. It's an interesting paradox because we live in an increasingly hustle culture world, but we're also living in this digital world where we're chasing instant gratification. So how are you supposed to hustle for your dreams, become the most that you're wanting to become in this life against getting these constant dopamine hits anytime that we feel bored, anytime that our mood sways, anytime we feel low in energy or that we don't want to do something, we can instantly take out our phone and get a tiny little dopamine hit from an Instagram reel or a TikTok video or some kind of text, a sound of an email coming through, whatever it might be. We're being conditioned to live for now, which is actually taking away from our ability to live now. I don't know if that distinction makes sense to you, living for now versus living now, but that's something that I kind of want to break down in this episode. And I'll go ahead and try to make this as clear as possible by making this distinction. Living for now is all about escaping what is actually happening in your life right now. And living now is about showing up fully, regardless of if it's hard. Escaping versus showing up. That's the choice almost every moment of our day, especially with our phones, at our sides, in our pockets at all times, sitting right there, begging us for a little dopamine hit. It feels so good. We're literally biological creatures that are programmed to enjoy the feeling of pleasure, dopamine. But if we can learn to detach ourselves from this instant hit, this instant gratification that dopamine gives us, and realize that although biologically our dopamine is telling us that we want more of this hit that it's giving us, we have a little bit of a removed spirit from the situation of what our body is telling us or what our energy is telling us, what our minds are telling us. And we say, no, I'm actually going to show up to actually be present to the life that I'm given right now. Does that distinction make sense to you? I'm going to say it one more time. You're escaping to the comfort of the dopamine hit versus showing up to whatever is going on in your life and making the most of it, being present to that. Anytime you get on the video game, you binge watch TV, or you're doom scrolling, you're typically escaping the reality, the present nature of what is going on in your life. You're not having to confront it. Anything that's happening on your phone is not the real world that you're living in. Any video game you might be playing is taking you away from the reality of the life that is given to you right now. Any TV show that you're binge watching is taking hours away from the beauty of the life that you have the pleasure of being able to live if you decide to. And so continuing to flesh this thing out, living for now is not just about escaping, it's about craving. It's about chasing this mountain of tiny, easier, momentary highs, while all the more inversely feeling emptier and emptier and emptier and emptier. I know that you know the feeling. I know that feeling. Yesterday, I sat there and doom scrolled for a while, and I got up, felt like I wasted a lot of my day. And this is something that I feel like daily I'm confronted with the decision of coming toe to toe with. Am I going to run away from the life, escape the life that I'm living, and satisfy the cravings that my body is telling me that I want, the dopamine hit? Or am I going to be present to the life that I'm living, show up for the reality, good or bad, of what I'm going through in my life right now, and make the most of it? And I think that distinction of living for now, regardless of if it's good or bad, is one that's really important to hone in on, because a lot of the times we're running to these things, even if it's just a tiny little bad thing, we're running to them because we're getting away from something that we don't like in our life that's kind of making our mood change or our energy level, something that's painful or sad. And a lot of the time it takes work to get out of those situations. And so by getting away from the work, you're still in the present moment of that sad thing that is happening, that situation, that mood, that energy level that isn't making you feel good in a certain way. So you escape to the craving. But whenever you come back to the reality of your life, the present moment of your life, you're right back where you were, but further in the future. And that's why you feel empty. That's why you feel even more empty than whenever you started. That's why I feel more empty after I do these things. And so this episode is as much of an encouragement for myself as it is for you. I don't have it all figured out yet, but I do know the truth of what matters in life. If you're out of shape or you're not where you want to be athletically or physically, odds are you know what you need to do to get in shape. Odds are also that you're not doing it. And so the battle is with ourselves. I literally wrote something down when I was in the gym yesterday, and I wrote down that my mind is tortured as I go through life. You know, if you've watched any of these episodes before, typically we'll start the episode off with this life in weeks board. I'm incredibly aware of the passing of time. At the same time, I have this thing about me that pulls me to being a lazy person. My energy levels vastly affect my ability to enact and do the things that I know I want to do in life. And I know that I want to do them because they make me excited. They bring me fulfillment. They impact the people around me in a positive way. And the more that I do them, the more fulfilled and at peace I become in my life. But why don't I just always do those things? Because I feel like there's a side of myself that is lazy, that wants to just fall into the craving, that wants that dopamine hit. And I struggle with it daily. So I'm tortured because I have this mind that is very actively, hour by hour, day by day, aware of the fact that time is moving. But I'm in this body that really likes comfort and that really likes to be lazy and that really likes the dopamine hit. And so the battle of my life is figuring out how to push back against that. It's not trying to become this perfect person and figure out the equation XYZ for how to mitigate and get rid of all these toxic things in yourself. The truth is that you're never going to actually get rid of who you are, but you can change certain habits and structures in your life. You can become more aware of when your energy levels are higher or lower, when you're more prone to being distracted, grabbing your phone, taking a creative break and going and binge watching a TV show. We can learn and take stock of who we are in this world. And day by day, week by week, by coming to this podcast, by myself coming and talking to you every week, I am constantly encouraging myself, putting my focus onto what is important in my life, recentering, grounding myself, and realigning with where I want to go in this life, despite my tendencies of being lazy or wanting to run to the craving to escape the reality of the hard thing. Because the reality is, if I want to do the things that I say that I want to do in this life, it's going to take work. It's never going to happen by me sitting on the couch. And that's why I firmly believe that we as humans are creatures of growth. We thrive in doing, not because we're going to attain this perfect future version of ourselves that if we could just get there, we'll finally be satisfied. But finding beauty in living now because we are on the journey of growth. We find peace and joy and fulfillment along that journey of growth. And that's what I want to constantly push myself into doing more and more each week. I have to. I owe it to myself as each of these little bubbles goes by in my life. It's painful to see it go by, but it's a constant, beautiful reminder that, hey, this week you get another fresh chance at taking control of your life and being whoever you want to be. There are no rules. Nobody can tell you what to do. And you can restructure your life the way that you want to. And if you don't believe that, I encourage you to sit down with yourself and take stock of why you're saying that. Talk to somebody that you know, talk to ChatGPT, reach out to me, DM me, read some books on this subject matter, and then get back to me and see if you're just escaping the reality of your own ability to enact change in your life, or if what I'm saying actually has some validity to it. That no matter where you're at, how old you are, what happened in your life, how much money you have, you can take control of your life and do what you want with it. It's a limiting belief to tell yourself otherwise. And so before getting into the practicality of how we can actually start shifting our mindset, let's talk about a little bit more on the other side of the coin, living now versus living for now. We've kind of established that living for now is satisfying our biological need for dopamine to escape from the reality of the life that we're living, to satisfy craving. But living for now is a completely different lens by which we approach life. It's a completely different way that we move through life. And living for now starts with the basic idea of understanding that life is literally only happening right now. Therefore, the only way to live is to be here right now. And to be here right now means that you can't be thinking about the future constantly, and you can't be thinking about the past. You can't be worrying about what's going to happen, be filled with anxiety about the future, or be sad about what's happened to you. You can't just be sitting here depressed about what has happened to you or what has led to this very moment right now. Living for now is showing up to the presence of the hand that you have been dealt, good or bad, beautiful or toxic, and making the most of it. And I'm not saying that if you're suffering or sitting in a bad spot that you just sit there and wallow in it. You can either A, accept the reality of the life that you're living and be okay with it and find the beauty in what is going on in your life, or you can change it, but you have to be present to it first. You have to be attuned and observant, listening to what's going on in your head, watching what's going on in your life, cognizant of where you are in life first. And then you can either accept the beauty of the life that you're living in or change something if it's not aligned. And so if you guys know me, you might be like, oh, well, Stanton, it kind of sounds contradictory for you to be saying, don't think about the future, just be present to now. I know for a fact you sit there and you make big goals and you plan out your week and you have things that you want to work toward doing. So how can you say put off the future for living for right now? Well, I'm not saying live for right now. I'm saying live right now. I heard somebody say one time that success isn't working toward this future ideal of a more fulfilled, more joyful, more perfect, better version of yourself. Success is taking right now and doing your very best, giving your complete attention to what you're doing right now and giving it your absolute best. And doing that over a lifetime, moment by moment, day by day, giving your presence, your complete attention to something. Can you imagine how that would compound into the most beautiful life you could possibly imagine? Giving your all to the people in your life because you're there. You're not distracted thinking about the past or the future. Writing that work email, not rushing through it, and actually taking your time to make sure it's as good as it can possibly be. Finishing a project and knowing that you did everything that you could moment by moment by moment as you worked on it to make sure that it was the very best that it could be. And that stacked up over a lifetime, the way that we interact with humans, the presence that we can give them, the way that we interact with the things that fulfill us, the things that we're given to do in life. We do a better job at them. We give our best to humans in our life and the things in our life. And that's going to yield a life worth living now, constantly. It's kind of an interesting thing that obviously I am still on the journey of figuring out myself. I am a millennial. I am very much sucked into the culture of sitting here and doom scrolling constantly. Doom scrolling whenever things get hard. Doom scrolling when my energy levels get low. And I just see my life pass me by. And I just don't want to keep doing it. And I don't want you to keep doing it either. And so this week, I want to give you a few practical things that whenever that decision comes of whether you're going to get onto your phone, the video game, binge watch TV, look at the screen. I'm just going to hone in on the things that distract us, the screens, that whenever you come to that crossroads, how are we actually going to get ourselves to live now instead of living for now, living for that craving, escaping? Now, just as a preface, these things are going to take you being aware of your tendency to get onto your phone. And so you're going to have to be emotionally and physically aware and present to the fact that, hey, I am reaching for my phone right now for distraction. I am trying to escape the workload that I have. I'm wanting to remove myself from this conversation. As a foundation, you're going to have to be aware of your tendency to do this. So these are super simple practices, questions that you can ask yourself to make yourself stop and think about whether it's going to be worth it for you to engage in this thing that could take away from the life that you're given the beauty of living. The first one is the decision audit. Very simple, but whenever you go to grab your phone or step up from your work and go be lazy and do something else that you know that you shouldn't be doing, you stop and you ask yourself, would future me be thankful that I'm doing this? Would future me be proud? You just stop for 3 seconds and you analyze that. If you can get to that point, you've won 90% of the battle because you're aware of the fact that it's happening. You're thinking about a version of yourself that isn't going to fall into the craving, isn't going to escape the life that you're living. And odds are, again, because often we know the truth of what we need to do, we just don't do it. If we can stop for just a few seconds, it could make all the difference in the world. Because oftentimes, if we're going for that thing that we're escaping to, living for now, the answer is no. Our future self is not going to be happy that we stopped to do that. So the first one was the decision audit. The next one is the 5-minute delay. This one's not going to be as easy to do because it takes more than 3 seconds. It actually takes 5 minutes or so, but you delay yourself from taking your phone out of your pocket. You delay yourself from going and watching the TV show. You delay yourself from the distraction that these screens offer you. And just wait 5 minutes. Give yourself 5 minutes to get into a different mindset. 99% of the time, that craving dies down. Almost like if you were wanting the impulse of itching your arm or something and realizing that if you just wouldn't itch it for a second, if you just let the flare up of the histamine in your body go down, that here in 5 minutes, I wouldn't want to be itching. It's the same thing for craving. It's the same thing for escaping the reality of your life. If you can wait 5 minutes, oftentimes that craving is going to go down. And so the second one's the 5-minute delay. The third one is the 5-year mirror. This could seem cheesy to you, but if you can get yourself into the frame of mind of thinking about your future self 5 years down the road and asking yourself if that person was standing in front of you and they were talking to you and begging you to make the most of your life now, how would that affect the decision that you're making? Would you go and lay in bed and doom scroll or go play the video game or go get your attention locked on a screen when your life is passing you by? Or would you take action, put aside your mood, be present to the life that you're given now, put your nose to the grindstone and grow? Like it or not, if we're lucky, 5 years down the road, there is going to be a future version of ourselves that will be the present version of ourselves. A lot of the times it's hard to think about our future self because we tend to think about it, oh, I don't know what it's going to be like whenever I'm old or when I have a bunch of kids when they're graduating from school 20 years down the road, 10 years down the road, but 5 years. 5 years down the road is a slightly smaller unit of time that we can maybe connect with a little bit more. And so if you can connect with the idea of envisioning a future version of yourself, sitting there and asking you to make the most of your life, how do you think that that would affect your decisions now? If you can reverse engineer all three of these little tactics to go about how to make better decisions in your life so that you're living now, that's going to provide a more powerful, beautiful, fulfilled future version of yourself versus living for now. There are three foundational principles of One Audacious Move, the 1 a.m. club. 1 a.m. is an abbreviation for One Audacious Move. 1 a.m. is also a nod to the midnight grind. 1 in the morning, those things that we're so passionate about that they keep us up at night. And then 1 a.m. also looks like the words, I am. And that's the one I want to focus on as we wrap up this week's episode. I am. You have the power to do these things. And if you take those 5 minutes and you think about your future self and you audit the decision you're about to make and think about your life now that you're living versus living for now, if you take that 5 minutes, I know you have the power to overcome that craving. It can be really hard, but the more you do it, the more empowered you're going to be to do more of those good decisions that are going to lead to a future version of yourself that would be thanking you if he was here right now. And so this week, I want you to focus on one thing. I want you to focus on the decisions that you choose to make in your life. I want you to focus on the decisions that lead to you getting away from what you're doing or getting distracted from what you're doing and looking at this screen, at this phone screen, at the TV screen, playing video games, whatever it might be. Your situation might be different of what the thing is that you're running to. But regardless of the situation, I want you to slow down this week and take 5 minutes to audit yourself and think about the future version of yourself that's going to be happy that you lived the life that you're living now and made the most of it so that the future version of yourself would be just as satisfied as you are now for having made a decision to not fall into escaping the life that you're living through craving. I can promise you that no matter what situation you're in, you weren't made to escape the life that you're living through craving, through instant little dopamine hits that mean nothing. You were made to live this life for what it is given you now, fully, boldly, and presently, moment by moment, by moment, by moment, by moment, giving it our all. That is my hope for you guys this week. Thank you so much for tuning into One Audacious Move, episode 9. I'm really enjoying meeting up with you guys every week. Hey, if you're enjoying this, I would really appreciate a 5-star review, sharing this with a friend, sharing this on Instagram, reaching out to me. I'd love to know if you're listening to this. It's always amazing to hear from the people that actually tune into these episodes that are taking one audacious move every week, even if it is just setting this down for a little bit less time every single week. That's my hope for you. That's my hope for myself. And this week, let's both go live as powerfully as we can with the life that we were given. Thanks again for watching this episode. I'll see you next week.